Anyway, we'll call the regular meeting to order. Why don't we start with the pledge? Everybody's present. I pledge allegiance to the flag,
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
thank you. And we'll just get some instruments. Before we do comments from the selectmen, I just want to say that probably 10 years ago anyway, the Lutheran Church did an addition to their building, kind of a community center. And I was invited to go and just be there for part of the ceremony, the blessing of the new space. Jeff Siniscalco was pastor there at the time. And said a few words, and they had me sit down, and I sat down next to a gentleman named Daryl Pataska. Never met Daryl. CPA. Daryl was probably 62 at the time. I think he was newly retired. And I'm talking to this guy going, this guy's a great guy. I said, he's smart. I have no idea what his affiliation is, but I need to get him involved. And he was unaffiliated, as it turns out. And Daryl came on the pension board for many years, ended up being chairman of the pension board after Suzanne Taylor. About 5 years ago, Daryl dealt with esophageal cancer and did really well, survived it, clean bill of health. And more recently had a recurrence of, without getting into too many details, prostate cancer. He was very older. He had his prostate removed 20 years ago, but sometimes if you don't get it all, it can actually happen again. And Daryl had been undergoing treatment for the last 6 months anyway, maybe more. He was open and honest to the board. He obviously, had a little less energy. Daryl chaired his last meeting in May. He came into my office before the meeting and said, this is it. I can't do it anymore. I have to focus on my health and treatment. And I knew he had lost some weight and everything. So that was his last meeting. I actually drove him home that day. His wife had driven him here. And Daryl passed away last Thursday or Friday. And he was a great guy. Daryl was a great guy. He was one of those guys that you're like, I know this guy will do great things for the community right off the bat without knowing anything else about him. And so I do want to have just a very brief moment of silence for Daryl Pataska, and I want to thank him for his service. So with that, brief moment of silence. Thank you. The services are, the wake is Friday. Not that, I know you guys probably didn't know Daryl, and the funeral is Saturday. Do plan on having town hall send flowers for the family. I spoke to his wife on Saturday. A lot of family in town. So, but anyway, that's that. We'll miss him very much. And there is a notice that's gone out to both parties that there is an opening. So with that, I will turn it over. I do have some comments, just so you know, on Doc and Dine, Chief of Police. If there were any questions on that I'll make, but in the meantime, I'll turn it over to you guys.
One
Yep.
comment / question. I heard some parents, overheard some parents talking last week about the work that had been done on the practice fields over at the high school.
Yeah.
And saying that it was not good.
Yep.
And so I wanted to just check in
Yep.
and see whether or not that was true or not versus
Yeah.
gossip and make sure that we are doing this right, cause I
Yep.
think that the expectation was that the field was going to be better than it was.
The
originally.
field will be better, so there are problems, so. Some of the areas. So I think a lot of the, sod has been is fine and will take, and has taken. There are areas where they hydroseeded and then they got rain poured on it. And so the hydroseeding all washed away. Then they hydroseeded again or something, then they had wind. This is what they are meeting July 14th.
Okay.
So a week from yesterday, the landscape contractor, Kurt Mailman from Fuss and O'Neill, Pamela Story, everybody's meeting on site
Great,
to see how they can fix this and make it right, because it has to be made right.
great,
So I am aware, there's a plan, I'm free, I'm going to attend the meeting and get a firsthand look myself.
great, thank you.
But that is what I've heard. Chris Strezick called me and said, I think there's an issue up there. They want to make sure it's being watered correctly, of course,
Yep.
which I assume it is. There was also a problem with one of the sprinklers, I think, and it was ponding water, so it didn't take in a whole area. But, so, there were some issues. I'm in full agreement that that has to be perfect over there.
Great, thank you.
I did go to graduation and it was beautiful at the time. So.
That's it for me.
Scott, good.
I have no comments.
Just brief project update. The crosswalks will be August project. Chalkers Mill Pond Dam, there's a meeting, I think today or tomorrow, with the property owner, the homeowner that's affected. That work will be starting this month, very shortly, in fact, probably next week. Beaver Dam Trail is under construction. They're building a little side road for traffic. So that is happening right now. And, Route 1, man, I'll tell you. Connecticut Water had to do some cutting during the week and during the day. And were you there yesterday by any chance? Me too. And, yeah. So, I'm hopeful that that is done. They're supposed to be only doing night work, but apparently they have to do some stuff during the day. And that was a disaster yesterday.
And that's separate.
That's
than
Connecticut
this-
Water.
That's not the sidewalk.
That is not,
Got it, okay.
that is all Connecticut Water. The sidewalks are after Connecticut Water, which won't be until August, but they're gonna start in Westbrook. So by the time they, it'll be late summer, by the time they get towards that part where they are now. But anyway, that's an update on that.
Question, there were these series
So,
of big
yep,
trees.
The trees,
that
so the sidewalk has to go there, they are replacing with trees.
Okay,
Yeah, I've had calls on that, I called everybody back, I let the tree committee know in advance, they were good with it, I told them, there, a couple of the trees were junk trees, but some of them were nice trees. And they came down, the stumps are gonna be pulled, obviously,
Okay.
for them to put in the new sidewalks. Just this morning, I received our certificate of permission for the seawall repair down at Dock and Dine for our trails grant.
okay,
So we're gonna work on a bid document so that we can, get that out to bid, fix the seawall, put in the sidewalk so that we can get to work on that trails project. So that's exciting. That came in 20 minutes ago. Chief of Police, meeting, next Wednesday evening. I think it's pretty common knowledge. We were down to about 14 candidates. 3 have withdrawn. And actually our consultant said in advance, you're gonna get several who are gonna withdraw during this process. 100% right. Interrogatories, so questions, the commission and the consultant worked on a series of questions for the remaining candidates based off the survey and based off community input. And also just all the responses have been received and they're being graded by the consultants and by the commission.
Okay.
I hope that after July 16th, we come out with 5 or so that will go to oral boards at that point, and then we get into personal interviews. So the process is being narrowed. Doc and Dine, I'm gonna have a conversation probably today. We keep disagreeing, we keep failing to come to an agreement. There's about 3 or 4 terms that I'm being insistent on, that don't seem to be, amenable to the seller of the Dock and Dine property, so we're working on that. Mira came to a crashing conclusion. The deal with Essex is all set. Oh, Matt, you helped me on that. And you had and Torrington went to DAS, so Essex did not. Yeah, it was a race to the finish. We had a meeting on June 30th. Just nuts. But the deal for Essex is in place for now. So we're good. We have a place to take our garbage, which is, and so does in Torrington. But there were a lot of other moving parts from Torrington. That's kind of my update. I do want to add, with the board's permission and its discussion and possible action. So if the board doesn't see fit to act, it's fine. But on the 2 things that you received, one of them is the estuary that I sent you yesterday. You'll see Heather said an undated letter. I wish she had dated that. I did receive this yesterday. I had talked to her about it a little bit. They want to do their floor, and it's not our building, it's a nonprofit. The fact of the matter is it probably serves more Old Saybrook residents than it does, even though it's a 9-town estuary, probably serves 80%, maybe less. Old Saybrook residents, super important for Meals on Wheels. That room is a revenue generator. And Heather mentions that in here. I'd like to help them get this floor. It's not a lot of money. And they've done some great negotiations with the contractor to get it from a higher number to a lower number. So I'd like to at least get something, a marker down from this board of selectmen to recommend, so I can get it onto the Board of Finance for consideration next Tuesday, but they may not vote on it next Tuesday, but just something to consider. I don't know. You have it in front of you. How do you feel about that? But let's add it to the agenda. An item to discuss and possibly act on the estuary request for monies to help them replace the flooring in the senior center's community room. I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, second by Matt. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's on the agenda. Any comments?
No, I think that the estuary is a good organization. Back during the budgeting process, I was, trying to find ways to get them additional resources. As somebody that used to run a nonprofit, I remain impressed back during COVID when things were difficult, when they reduced their requests because of the way things had evolved. That's like, you would never think about that, but they really ask for what they need. And I think that as we look at evolving situations, like it's worth trying to help out.
Yeah. Just so you know, usually from nonprofits, the nonprofits we do support, we get a letter from them in November, December, January, February, prior to the budgeting process. We never got a letter from the estuary this year, so we put in the same number. And then we got a letter last week that asked for 5,000 more than what we put in the budget last week. And so we're gonna send them what we budgeted. And if we have to add it at some point, we will. But I was like very disappointed in how that happened with that. And I don't know where, I don't know if they just missed the boat on it or not. It was like their funding request for fiscal 26. And that's 6 months late. So it might be something we can rectify during. the year.
Proactive, yeah, that's fine.
All right, I'm not gonna sweat it's 5,000, we won't sweat the details. Is there an amount that, to me, this is not a big number. I want them, if we put in a number, I want them to be able to say, if you give us this, we can start work next week. They're having a lot of trouble fundraising because they're doing so many other things. And it's not like they have a pile of cash to draw from. I had talked to Heather at one point and I said, should we do some sort of matching? But I'm afraid they're gonna have trouble matching, even at 10, at the number of. So, I'd like to put a number out there of 15, because I think if we do 15 of the 20, they can get the project done. Scott, if you need it done, around, but I'm open to whatever the board would consider, even if the board wants to hear more from Heather, that's fine. We can put it off to the next meeting. But, it's not, it's whatever the pleasure is.
I think I'm just a little confused in
Yeah.
terms of following the numbers in the memo, because they requested 10. You're putting a number out of 15.
Yeah, well, it said or more if the board sees.
Or, okay.
Yeah,
Looks like they need
20,
20.
yeah.
They have 4,000 in donations.
Yeah.
So the 35 numbers, they beat the contractor down and discount prices and install and donations down to this $20,000 number.
They did a
Okay.
good job. Like
Okay.
they said, the contractor said, we'll do it on nights and weekends so that we don't mess up our normal, that's what Heather told me.
Okay.
And, so I would just like for them to be able to get it done. That room is beautiful. The outdoor area is beautiful. They can generate revenue out of that room, and they do generate, I mean,
Yeah. And
DPC's been there, RTC's been there. Other organizations, and I think that room can be really kind of advertised.
we can make it more of a community space,
We
which
definitely can.
is always a need. And it also, even though it's a regional organization, it's in Old Saybrook, so it's gonna disproportionately serve more Old Saybrook.
There's no question about it. And by the way, whatever we recommend, Board of Finance can consider.
Yep.
So it's not, it's not cut in stone. I'll listen, I'll make a motion for 15, but that can be,
I'm in support of that.
yeah, and that way they can get it done. If we give
Yep.
15. And, we're in a place right now where we, it's not gonna affect town finance. All right, it's been, moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Do 15, aye, okay, very, thank you. The other project is something that's been brewing for 4 or 5 months. And it occurred to me yesterday that the Board of Finance hasn't seen it. The Kate is, let me add to the agenda, a request to discuss and possibly act on an appropriation in the amount of 21.5 from the capital non-recurrent fund for the purpose of repairing a portion of the foundation at the Catherine Hepburn Cultural Arts Center. I'll make the motion to add that to the agenda. Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. All right. So, town building, and put this in front of you. This is the memo that obviously is in draft form that went to the Board of Finance. They'll be taking it up next week. Now, whether they act on it or not, I don't know. Sometimes they like to see it, wait 2 weeks, act on it. And there is time to do that. Even if we allocate it from surplus, or capital non-recurrent, but the work needs to be done at some point. So, and, this would be fully funded by the town. So, I'm gonna make a motion that we, recommend it.
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
And that way, it's in place for the Board of Finance.
Just a
Yes,
question,
yeah.
I don't wanna make an assumption, so I know that we were having water issues, we installed new gutters. The new gutters have corrected the
Yeah.
problem that's originally causing this, but this is the leftover damage from
The
the.
new gutters, work upward just fine. There's no issues with the gutters. Is this, yeah, and there's not an issue anymore.
Okay.
In fact, I don't know if you remember, but years ago, there was some flooding where we get a heavy flat like we might get this afternoon.
Yep.
And the water would just come to the patio, onto the patio, and they had to put those, and it went in to the Cape, and they were able to, before it did any damage or anything. So they're very alert to that. Bill Claffey has cleaned some of the drainage down into the marsh, and it has not happened since. Originally, we were talking about doing some additional drainage on the town green. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
It might have been, and we haven't had to do that. That was more of an expensive project too. So, but water that comes from the state road was backing up and coming into the Cape patio. That goes across the street towards the River Mart, down the River Mart, down to the corner of Old Boston Post Road. Then it goes underground and goes out to the marsh.
Okay.
That is the pathway.
Okay.
So Bill has cleaned out some of that area and everything seems to be draining better. It might be tested, it probably was tested last Thursday night, and it might be tested again today.
Okay.
But obviously with the museum, they're a little bit more conscious of all that. So anyway, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right. I know we did some of this, but as you know, we have to do an actual resolution for the Ferry Road, project, and that is in front of you, so I'll move that authorizing the resolution. It's in front of you.
I'll second.
Thank you. And this is something the state needs to see eventually. I'm still waiting for final design, which I think they were hoping to have by the end of July. I did follow up on that with Jeff Jacobson. They were working on the parking lot and, but everything else should be done. So hopefully we can put that project out to bid probably this winter for project, next year. The nice thing is with the steep grants is to have your projects in construction so that you can apply again and you don't have them all backed up. So hopefully we'll have our sidewalk steep project done. This project will be mostly done by the time we apply for another steep grant. So all good. And I think last year's steep grant was for the fire company, radios. And that's done. So the good thing is we're getting these grants in and we're actually almost shovel ready type of thing and getting it done. So. All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Al Hyla has resigned. This is a spot that's gonna be up in, November. For election, but just to fill it temporarily. Joe Maselli, you know Joe probably, Matt?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was on police, right?
Yeah, he was on
Yeah.
police commission.
He's like a
He's a
high school educator.
Yeah.
He's a principal.
Right, yeah.
And
What happened? He resigned or?
no, he's gonna fill the spot that Al Hyla had.
Oh, okay, good.
At least temporarily. He has indicated an interest in possibly running this fall too, so putting it in place but Joe's an educator. I think Joe will be, Joe's kind of down the middle. I think he. So I'm gonna move Joe Maselli's appointment,
Second.
seconded. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I have one more appointment, ARB. We finally. So ARB has struggled to get a quorum, over these last year or two. There are several members who are not making it, and we've called them. Donna Leak, who was on, is on conservation and was on ARB, agreed to resign. ARB, but it took us forever to get her resignation, Sarah. This lady, Denise Alec, was brought to us by Tina Rupp, who's also on ARB. Denise, I haven't met her yet, but Chris Costa met her. Chris Costa's like, as soon as you get a resignation, she'd be great on ARB. She says she'll show up. Denise is a newer resident to town. She bought the house, you probably don't know it necessarily unless you live in the neighborhood, basically across from the feed bag, and right in my neighborhood type of thing. There was a gentleman, not that baseball player John Ellis, but another John Ellis, had a British accent. He and his wife lived there. They moved, obviously, and Denise bought it. I forget what Denise, I think she was coming from New York. She's a Republican. I just asked her the other day. I didn't know, truly. I said to her, just for board makeup purposes, what is your affiliation? And she said she's a Republican. But she previously had met with Chris Costa. And Chris said she thought she'd be very good for the ARB. Ed Armstrong coincidentally came into my office earlier this week and said, or last week, and said, it was embarrassing, we didn't have a quorum at our last meeting, do you have someone that you are going to appoint? And I said, yes, at our next meeting. So it's just important that we get someone on that. I will get you the information on the term. Okay, I'll shoot an email to you shortly. When I leave here, I just wanted to get this on so that they don't have a problem at their next meeting. So I'm gonna move Denise, onto the ARB. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Well, let's add that to the agenda first. That appointment of Denise Alec to fill the resignation from, that Donna Leak, who was an unaffiliated voter, when she resigned. So I'll move that onto the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. And now I'll move Denise. I'll make that motion. Scott, you'll second it.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you for that. And I think, the ARB will thank you for that.
Great.
Was there anything else I didn't wanna? I know some of the stuff got added, I think that's all I have, we had our first, there's a survey going out, just quickly, very quickly. Did a post vendor, we're doing a post vendor survey for Celebrate Saybrook. We're using the HR company because they have such a great tool for surveys. So they put 2 sample surveys together for Jennifer to review, and we're gonna send it out to all the vendors to try to get some good feedback. So.
That's good.
All right,
All right.
thank you guys. I'll move to adjourn. Is there a second?
All right.